Good day, everyone. Richard Cowperthwait for Northwest Access TV. Thanks for joining us for another show. And we have another show pertaining to issues in Highgate. Happy to have alongside Highgate's new town administrator, Sharon Bousquet, and Rebecca Manning, trustee of the Highgate Library and Community Center and the vice chair of the Village Core Master Plan Committee. Nice to see you folks again. Welcome back.
Thank you.
And big vote coming up in Highgate. Before we get into that, Sharon, how have your first, couple weeks or so as town administrator? How have they been going?
They have been going fabulous.
Finding enough to do, I suspect.
Yes, we have a lot going on in Highgate. A lot of fine details to look over and to make sure that things get done on time. But yes, everyone has been just great to work with, and I'm having a good time at it.
That's good. So no thoughts about the old "be careful what you wish for," not having any second thoughts at this point, hopefully anyway?
No second thoughts.
Okay.
No second thoughts.
Seemingly, as a former select board chair, you presumably know pretty much what you are getting into.
Yes. That was an advantage, definitely, to taking the job. I knew the players and I knew the project, so
Right.
it was very helpful.
And again, Richard Flint's the new Highgate Select Board Chair.
Yes, he is.
And are you still after a successor to you on the Select Board, or has that already happened?
No, we have advertisements out now
Yeah.
for interest in the select board, and all you have to do is either bring in a letter to the town clerks or drop a letter of interest into the drop box in the back of the municipal building, or you can just send a letter in the mail or email townadmin@highgatevt.org.
Have there been some applicants, do you know, of some?
Not yet, no.
Not yet. That's right.
No.
Rebecca, does that cross your mind? I'm sure it sounds like you could use another job, probably, huh?
It has not crossed my
crossed your
mind.
mind?
I think that I have enough on my plate
Yeah.
right now. The Village Core Master Plan Committee has been busy, and there's a lot that they're doing, and the library trustees are also really busy with just regular library duties, but then also looking into a new build has a lot on our plate right now.
So you think you have enough going on now, huh?
I have enough going on right now.
Hopefully there'll be an applicant or two or three or more. Have you talked to some folks who are at least thinking about going for it?
I haven't. We have two new members, so that we were very grateful to have those join the select board. So that third one may be a little hard in coming, but hopefully we'll have somebody by the July 20th.
Yeah, good luck with that. So again, the big issue we're talking about today is a vote in Highgate coming up on Thursday, July 20. I should note we're taping this show on Monday, July 10th. So I trust the show will get some attention before, obviously, July 20. And who wants to jump into that? Again, big vote in Highgate, I guess 6 o'clock start at the Highgate Arena that night, and this gets back to the Village Core. Sharon, you want to start or whatever? So what's this all about?
So on the 20th of July at 6 o'clock, we'll be having a meeting, first informational and then a public vote for the purchase of little over 18 acres of land from WRB LLC. That land's purpose is to hold a wastewater facility, which basically, in layman's term, is a giant leach field. That will allow us to have a village wastewater system that primarily is to have to develop the former masonry property, what we call the Village Core property. We have big plans for that property, which include a new library and some commercial development and possibly some senior housing. So in order to do those plans, we need to have a wastewater system, because the wells of the neighbors would be affected if we tried to do that development of sewer on that property. So we really do need to have that to protect the wells of the neighbors.
Rebecca, you want to jump in on this?
I think that what's important to note as Sharon had said, that we have big plans for that property, including a library, commercial space, senior housing maybe, but that everything will go for a vote. So step one is to bring this wastewater land purchase for a vote. Once we have that secured, then we can move forward in the process with engineering that system. We can continue to look at what makes sense to put on that property. We've had some charrettes in town inviting anybody to come to a meeting to see what people would like to see there. But it is not going to be the wish of the select board or the village core committee that determines what will go on that property. That anything that happens there will go for a vote before it happens. So some of the things that we've looked at do include a new library. They do include senior housing. They do include some commercial space, but no decisions have been made, and it will ultimately go to a vote. Those boards won't be the ones that make that decision. We will
Okay.
put forward a recommendation.
So key vote, for this to move forward, if this is a no vote, you're not going in anywhere, or would have to cut down? Could you do anything without the big leach field?
We could do very little.
Yeah.
It would completely change any ideas of development on that property. The engineers have given us a preliminary system drawing as to what could happen there. Hopefully, as Rebecca said, hopefully the people show up for the July 20th meeting. This vote is only for the property vote. It has no relevance to anything else. It's just whether or not the select board can purchase this property.
And what's the price tag associated with this?
The price tag is $300,000
And just to buy the land.
just to buy the land. $200,000 of that is already been funded by a state grant, and $100,000 of that has already been funded by the select board using $100,000 of their 1 million plus ARPA funds.
American Rescue Plan Act money?
Correct.
So no additional tax dollars?
There'll be no additional tax dollars spent on this purchase. There'll be no large outlay of cash. We have funding for the construction of this project if it goes forward.
And you already have funding for that?
Yes, we do have some funding for that already.
A significant amount of funding for that.
Yes.
Huh.
So the select board knew that legally they did not want to purchase land without the public's vote. So that's what the July 20th is.
Something you could have done, had the select board wanted to do that, you could have done that, or?
We, as a former select board member,
Right.
we could have done that if we had used strictly ARPA money.
Oh, really?
But in the vein of transparency, we want everyone involved in this decision, as many people as possible, to have the facts, to have an idea of what's going forward, and to have their input.
Right. Well, if you can, again, if this moves ahead with the various projects, you're going to need positive votes, so.
Absolutely.
Sounds like probably a smarter way to start to get the first positive vote if indeed you get it.
Yes.
And we've talked off air, I think we talked last show. I'm sure some folks are saying, well, this is a big issue. Why aren't we doing Australian ballots? So obviously it would get you a better turnout. In fact, you don't have that choice with us.
No, legally we can't do that.
And again, this issue came up at town meeting.
Yes, we had put an article in our town meeting to whether or not the town wanted to go to Australian ballot vote.
On money issues or kind of key issues, whatever.
Yeah, but that was tabled. So we have to have a public in-person vote. So if people want their opinions to be heard, they need to show up.
Right. And I guess you can kind of argue that both ways. Obviously, Australian
Yes.
ballot would give you a better turnout, but if it was Australian ballot, people would just be showing up and voting with obviously no opportunity for discussion.
Right.
Interesting. Rebecca, you running into that issue, people wondering, hey, why aren't we doing Australian ballot?
I think that people always ask that question
Yeah.
when there's a vote that's not by Australian ballot. But I do think that it's nice that there's the opportunity before the vote for everyone to have their questions answered and to really be informed on what they're voting on.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, what's the checklist in Highgate? Have you got the rough figure for registered voters?
Registered voters, I think we have 2,700.
About 2,700. What would you guess you'll get for a turnout on July 20th? Seems like town meetings.
We'll probably get 50 to 70.
That's about what I would have guessed, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
about, I think we had 76 for town meeting.
Yeah. And again, the issue, as we talked about, the Australian ballot issue was tabled at town meeting. Is that to say that'll definitely come up again at the next town meeting?
Yes, it's been on the docket
For a while.
Last several years.
Several, town meetings. So
Yeah. Interesting.
I can understand both ways. You
Yeah.
know, it's a tradition. A lot of the people want to have that time to question their
Yeah.
elected officials, and I think that's great, but I also think that a large population goes unrepresented.
Yeah. Rebecca, what's the feedback? You're obviously talking to folks about this. What are you hearing? A mix of comments, some positive, negative, I assume, but any particular strand of the comments you're hearing about what you're doing?
I think there's a mix of positive and negative. There has been some concern that people in the village will be forced to hook into this wastewater system, and that's not the case at all. There has been some discussion about if people would like to tie into the system, that could be an option. But I mean, honestly, this system isn't large enough to support the village core property and the entire village.
Yeah. Sharon, what are you hearing? Again, mixed comments or any particular strand of what you're hearing out there?
Well, I would reiterate what Rebecca said, that a lot of people are afraid that they'll be forced to join onto the system, but as she said, that's not true. The main purpose in this was the development of the former Macy property. But we've also had some commercial interests. I've been contacted by several businesses in town looking to join this wastewater project. It would be good for their development. So I'm pretty excited about that would give us, a good solid base for our first phase of water treatment.
And we talked before, I think at the earlier show, Lamoille Valley Rail Trail, of course, basically completed, goes right through town.
Yep.
That certainly might add some interest to some folks possibly thinking about a business or two.
Yes. Yeah, we are happy to support our local businesses and hopefully can do well by everyone.
Yeah.
At this time, this is a great opportunity because the money that we receive from ARPA plus the grants that we've received from the state may not come again. This is an perfect funding opportunity, and hopefully the residents will see that and they'll jump on board for a project that won't cost them anything at this point.
Yeah, I guess outside funding seems like it's not what it used to be. I've been around here a long time. I can go back to when St. Albans City, getting, of course, a lot of grief for the St. Albans Bay situation, did a major wastewater plant upgrade. I'm going back to, maybe even 1980s or so. But at that point, whatever it was, $10 to $20 million project, I think feds were funding 75% of it at that point.
Yeah.
But outside funding, not exactly what it used to be. Is the Highgate Select Board unanimously in favor of this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and they voted early on that to make up the difference in cost between the $200,000 grants and the $300,000 price tag, that they would set aside $100,000 of the town's received
Yeah.
ARPA funds and use that for this purpose. So they do feel strongly that this is a great opportunity for the town and helps us develop that village core property.
Rebecca, have you been with kind of this from day one of the village core issue getting attention?
I have not been part of the village core since day one. I
Huh.
came onto that board 2 or 3 years ago. I think that it's probably been in existence for 5 years, probably.
All right.
But it's just been a good way to be involved and know the facts about
Hmm.
what's going on with that project.
Huh. For folks who are negative about this, what is their, do they just feel this isn't something Highgate should do? Is there any feeling for folks you run into who are opposed to this? Is it, I mean, you're running into some folks saying, boy, Highgate might be a good idea, but Highgate's just trying to do, too much here, but I'm sure there are different opinions out there.
I think there's a little misinformation out there. And I also think that it's important for people to realize that this is happening in phases. So I think where the most disagreement is to what will actually go on to that property. What will be in the commercial space? Will there be a library on that property?
Yeah.
Will there be senior housing, low-income housing? That people have strong feelings about all of those things, but we can't even have that discussion
Right.
until we have a wastewater facility.
And again, you're saying there would be votes if this does pass on July 20th and you're moving, say, on a new library, there would be a vote on that. That's not going to just happen. There would be...
No, that's all the select board, when they originally purchased the property, had made a promise to the town that anything that happened there would go before the voters. And we've done that very transparently and very faithfully, that nothing happens without the town's vote.
Right. So if the vote is positive on the $300,000 to purchase the 18 acres, what's the next? And again, you're saying it'd be basically a big leach field.
Yes.
Are we not talking any even buildings or talk?
No, you're talking maybe a pump station, but no, there's no building, there's no major maintenance. This is a simple project. Part of what I hear sometimes in the negative category is that, well, you're putting in a wastewater treatment plant.
Yeah.
But no, we're not. We're not. We're just putting in a giant leach field. The only thing you'll see that's any different will be a field that's mowed, that they have one pump station, but it's not a building. It's just a minor blip. You'd never be able to tell that we have a village wastewater system.
Interesting. Have there been other, this is kind of new terrain, I'm not sure I've heard of anything quite like this. Are there some other places in Vermont that have gone this route, do you know?
Oh yes, there's a lot
Yeah,
of,
a lot.
yes.
Obviously, small places aren't going to tend to have wastewater treatment plants.
Right. It's not economically feasible,
Sure.
and it's not needed,
Yeah,
especially in Highgate. People say, well, you have all kinds of sandy soil. Why do we need this?
yeah,
Well, because in order to protect people's wells,
yeah,
and some people don't have good functioning septic systems.
sorry.
Some of our older homes may not have a good, decent system. This gives them an opportunity to do a more economical fix than having to tear everything out, get a permit from the state, put in a mound system. Those things are costly now.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
So this helps a group that may be having a failed system problem, This helps the development of that core property, and it helps the businesses that are in our village also. So right now, with the fact that that's also already funded, just makes perfect sense.
Interesting. Rebecca, if you get the positive vote on July 20th, what's the next step? Again, it sounds like you feel very strongly, I think, that Highgate could use a new library and community center. Would you then kind of focus on what you would like to put in the village core? Or what's the next step if you get that positive vote?
We're working in parallel right now with moving forward with this vote. We're hopeful that we get approval from the town, but we are meeting this week. We meet monthly with the village core group, and we'll meet Wednesday at 6 o'clock. We're meeting at the library this week because the floors are being redone at the town offices.
Right.
But we just continue to investigate our options for that property and to look through the feedback that we have heard from the taxpayers, working with the architect that we have on board with us, GBA, who's been great to work with. So we will continue all of those things, but I think the next official step, if we get a positive vote, is to work with the engineering. And I think that we will need to have another vote. Is that correct?
So what'll happen is we'll get a final design concept from Otter Creek, our engineers, and once we have that, we're also searching for a water source for that particular property. Once those things are in place, then we can go forward with asking people, what would you like to see here? These are your options, which, as Rebecca said, we had charrettes, which were basically just a public meeting that allowed people to come in and look at some preliminary designs of what could go there, what might go there. We don't want to be a tax burden to the town. We'd like to develop this in a timely way, this phased approach, so that this is good for the town, good for the taxpayers, and affordable.
Right. Rebecca, as a library trustee, I think we talked before, you feel very strongly, I think, that the town really could use a new library community center.
I do. The space that we have now, the physical building space, is tiny. It's well under 1,000 square feet, and it's really well utilized. We have a great staff right now that is really good about utilizing all of the space that we have inside, as well as the really wonderful backyard that we have. We have a large tent out there so that even when it's been raining all summer, we are able to hold some activities outside just because the physical space inside is so small.
That tent's up all summer, I assume, or?
Right. Yeah. But one of the things that we are really looking forward to in a new space is that community center space. So, I mean, this week, the Village Core group is going to meet at the library, and it is going to be close quarters, and it would be very nice to have a large community room where a board like that could meet, where a local Boy Scout or Girl Scout or 4-H group could meet, that is just neutral community space that would hold a good amount of people.
And the municipal building, the town hall, doesn't really have a big room, right?
We are limited in space there. Also, when we do a public vote, like our regular voting, we have to take the lobby of the arena over. So this would also give us an option to have a safe place to have a public vote, instead of having to use the arena and then have the children walking through trying to get to the ice. And so it would make things much better. It's also the community room, you know, they're working towards programming for all ages. whether that be the elderly or our senior citizens or our children. This community room, it's our hope that it will be busy full-time.
Yeah. Obviously, price tags come into play for anything. If you put a new, folks, Highgate townspeople, do you favor a new library community center? If you could get people not to hook into the price tag, how do you think a vote would go for the town right now? Do you think there would be support? I mean, obviously you get mixed feelings about anything, but do you think there's a fair amount of sentiment that, yeah, Highgate could ideally use a new library, community center?
I think the community has been supporting the library. Over the last several years, we have asked for money to be set aside so that we will have some cash when we do build, and they have been very supportive of that over the last several town meetings. So we do have a small kitty set aside because we have had the support of the community, which
Yeah.
I think is very telling.
And the senior housing issue, that's come up in recent years too, people ask about that, or?
For the last probably 10 years,
Really?
there's been interest in having some type of senior housing in the area.
And there's none now.
In Highgate, there is none now.
Yeah.
We have a lot of older taxpayers, and a lot of those people are very connected to their community and would welcome a place to go that was nice, safe, accessible area.
Yeah.
So having this option, I think, would make a lot of our older residents feel more comfortable in what they could do in the time they have left.
Have you heard any developers, any housing people talking about, if you moved ahead with this, I might be interested in doing something?
Well, that's part of our next phases, is
Yeah.
to speak to these people and say, would you be interested, and what would you need from the town, and what can we do for you?
Yeah, interesting. Down to about 1 minute. So Rebecca, make a quick case. You obviously strongly support this, but first things first, the July 20 vote is, you need a positive vote for this project to move along.
I think the July 20th vote is very important. Obviously, I would like a positive vote, but what I think is most important is that people are informed. So come out on July 20th, ask your questions, listen to what other people ask, and learn what's happening. If you can't make that vote, we are meeting at the library on Wednesday night at 6 o'clock, and we generally meet monthly. So come out to one of our meetings and ask some questions.
So Sharon, big vote for you.
Big vote. Hopefully we have lots of interest and have a positive vote.
Well, I hope you get a decent turnout. Any effort to send anything out to townspeople to tell them about the meeting, or is it just kind of what, if people are paying attention to things?
We've been doing some advertising and some postings, and you've been kind enough to let us come here.
Well, appreciate your presence. That'll do it for time, but I hope you get a decent turnout. Good luck. Thanks to Sharon Bousquet, the Highgate Town Administrator, Rebecca Manning, Library Community Center Trustee, and Vice Chair of the Village Core Master Plan Committee. Good luck. Thanks for your presence. Thanks to producer Paul Snyder. I'm Richard Cowperthwait. We'll see you next time on Northwest Access TV. See ya.
Thank you.